This segment is brought to you by Outdoor Edge. There's never a dull moment with their razor-sharp replaceable blade knives. If you've hunted whitetails for any amount of time, you've probably had this scenario. A deer, a good deer, in your sights, but it just won't give you the right shot. That best shot that results in a clean, quick kill.
Is there ever a situation when you want to try a quartering two shot while bow hunting? Let's be honest here. If you're a seasoned bow hunter, that quartering to, slightly quartering toward shot is very makeable. But there's a lot of things that you have to keep in mind before you release that arrow.
This is where it all begins.
My best hunting day ever. This is Deer and Deer Hunting TV.
Whether you hunt from a tree stand or a ground blind, obviously both present challenges. That challenge increases when a good deer shows up, but it won't quite move to allow the perfect shot. Not all shots are created equal, and you are not always going to get the broadside look at 50 yards.
So we preach about it all the time. The optimal shot is slightly quartering away or broadside. Broadside's a great shot, obviously. But a lot of times people say, oh, quartering too, you don't take it. A seasoned bow hunter, once you have shot enough deer, and once you really know what you're doing, if you're really disciplined, that's the first thing. You have to be disciplined, number one, and you have to really know deer anatomy. Now, if you're looking at a whitetail that's coming towards you and he turns and he's slightly quartering to you, there is a pocket there that you can fit that arrow right in front of that, between the shoulder and the neck. And it's basically the same pocket when you're taking that quartering away shot. That would be the exit wound on the quartering away shot, is your entry wound on the slightly quartering to shot. But the thing that I can't stress enough is that you need to have experience and you have to be very patient when taking that shot.
While the perfect shot can be a practice in patience, stealthy bow hunters can also experience an unexpected scenario. Can a shot be too close?
Absolutely, it can be too close when you're from a tree stand, for the most part. When you're in a tree stand and that deer gets in on you and he's right below you or she's right below you, that angle really changes. I don't care how that deer's standing, if it's standing broadside, quartering away, quartering to. If that deer is right up on me and I'm drawn like this, number one, my anchor point's gonna be different, especially for me because I'm sitting down. That anchor point's gonna be different. For me, I normally will shoot high in a situation like that.
So for me, I'd rather have to do the math in a tree on a deer that's close and straight down than being up in a tree and have that deer out there at 75 yards and doing the math. Close for me, picking the right spot, I love that shot.
But what about from a deer anatomy standpoint? How does that affect things? It affects it this way. That kill zone on a broadside shot, say 20 yards away, that deer's 20 yards away, that kill zone's about like that on the lungs. When that deer gets way in here, that kill zone gets really, really small because you gotta look at that deer, how it's standing and where that arrow's gonna be. One thing that I always stress is visualize where that arrow's going in and where it's coming out, and then look at that deer and say, how much of the vitals is that taking out? So the short answer is, let that deer get away from you, let it pass you to get to a distance, 10 yards, 15 yards, to where you can have that real money shot.
Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Cuddyback, CuddyLink, 24 cameras, 1 cell plan, $10 per month. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Get armed and deadly with Easton FMJ arrows. And by Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry Technology Plus. Apply it, dry it, and go hunt. Up next,
If you don't think you can make that shot, if you're doing a Hail Mary pass like you're in the Super Bowl and it's the 2-minute warning and you're down by 3 points, don't take the shot.
this is Deer and Deer Hunting. This segment of Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Matthews. When talking about your best shot, everything can be perfect. The position, the wind, the whole plan. Then it's up to the hunter.
Where exactly, and I mean exactly, was that deer standing before you took the shot? Get it in your head. It was by that stick, it was by that rock, it was by that corn stalk, whatever it happens to be, know exactly where the deer was standing. How was the deer standing? Broadside, quartering away. Really understand, because a lot of times you say, oh, he was broadside. And then when we're filming, it happens a lot. Oh, he was broadside, and look, he's actually, no, he's quartering to me, or quartering away from me, or whatever. So know where he was standing, know where he ran. He ran that way, obviously, but where was the last place that you saw him? And that is critical. Those 3 pieces of information are going to be enormously helpful for you on getting on that blood trail and finding that deer after the shot.
When you decide to take the shot on a deer, that's an important decision in your life. Maybe not as much as marrying your spouse or landing a new job, but it is a huge undertaking because you're taking something's life. And you want to do that cleanly, ethically, and basically you want to do it so you got some good venison at the end of this hunt. So what are some of the considerations? The first one is, are you confident? Can you make the shot? Is this a shot you've practiced? Is this a shot you know you can make? Now, one of the things that I run up against, and I know you do too, is you're hunting up against property lines all the time. Is that deer gonna die on your side of the fence? Is he gonna go across the fence? Is that deer gonna get into thick cover? You're not gonna be able to find him? So keep these considerations in mind as well. Are you gonna be able to find that deer even if you make a good or bad shot? The third consideration is after you take the shot. And what I always tell myself is calm down and don't do anything. If you're gonna do anything after you pull the trigger, phone a friend. Call a buddy in to make sure that you have someone there to help you find that deer. Because even cleanly hit deer can run a long ways, especially with an arrow because they're dying of hemorrhaging, not of shock like they do to a bullet and the massive damage it causes. The trend these days, it's all about long range. If you're picking up your rifle and throwing in some Hornady ammunition, you're wanting to go out there and shoot 400 and beyond. If you are going to shoot long range though, you have to understand your caliber, the ballistics behind it, the trajectory of that bullet. Because when that bullet gets out there so far, typically past 200 yards, it begins losing ground to gravity and pulling back towards the earth. So you got to know how to adjust that bullet and have that information at hand. But before you shoot long range, you need to do the math and you need to practice. And you got to have it in your mind that you are going to be able to make that long range shot when that buck does step out at 492 yards.
Deer and Deer Hunting editor Dan Schmidt is in Wyoming on an early season archery hunt. With the number of animals early season in the cowboy state, Dan is pretty sure of a great deer, but he's looking for something extra, a perfect shot with a different scenario.
And hunting with my friends, Ralph and Lenore Dampman, Trophy Ridge Outfitters, they're near Carlisle, Wyoming. You know, this is one of the most special bow hunts in America, in my opinion. I've hunted all over the place, and there's something about early season Northeast Wyoming. We get there, just great camaraderie in camp, just very relaxed. I've hunted there for over a decade now, and for me, I'm not super picky. If I see a nice buck, I'm not gonna hold off. I always said, if I see a nice buck on the first day that I would kill on the last day, I'm totally gonna take that shot, because that's, for me, it's about the experience and the excitement and everything that goes with that. So the first morning we get in there and we're in a blind that's in a field that's not too far from the road. And the really neat thing about deer behavior here in Northeast Wyoming is these deer are not pressured. So they don't really care if there's traffic around. That's why I always say, you know, don't get too concerned if there's traffic and noise, because if deer are used to it, they're gonna go about their way. And that's what happened that first morning. It starts getting light out, we start seeing deer immediately. There's some hay bales out in this blind. It had just been hayed. The farmer had not got the bales out of there yet. And here comes not only one buck, but several bucks. Really nice 8-pointer. And I'm like, my goodness, he's already polished. And I'm like, I'm not gonna be picky. I'm gonna take him if he comes in. He's coming right at us. So this buck's coming in. I'm getting pretty excited. The heart starts hammering. I really didn't have any second guesses if I was gonna shoot him, because he was a really nice buck. But the thing about it is deer don't always play by the script. He played by the script in the fact that he came in and he came within bow range of the blind. But okay, we have a TV camera in the blind. It's not perfect situation. You got small little windows. I'm gonna say that I did not pass this buck up, because what happened is he got in so fast and so tight that I would have basically had to stand up and shoot him and you wouldn't have saw him on TV, because it would have been impossible to get those cameras out the windows that weren't open. So he walked. Really neat experience. We're gonna go back to camp for some lunch and see what happens in the afternoon.
Waiting to take the best shot on a deer can mean many things. Patience, practice, and maybe even a little luck. But you also need the deer.
And hunting with my friends, Ralph and Lenore Dampman, Trophy Ridge Outfitters. They're near Carlisle, Wyoming. They've brought hunters into their home, and they've just showed them, you know, great hospitality, great food, and great hunting. But it's a whole family event here. Eric Dunn is Ralph's son-in-law, and Eric is a top-notch guide, and he helps out with some of the guiding operation. And Eric was gonna take us out in the afternoon to a spot I know very well. I've shot several deer out of that area. It's a big alfalfa field overlooking like a little creek drainage. And what's really neat about it is a spot where you can just basically sit back. Now on this hunt in the afternoon, perfect weather, sun shining, we can sit back in this blind and just watch the day unfold. And my goodness, what a day it was. We had does and fawns come out. We saw some other bucks come out and field, and they were just all over the place. Nothing super close and nothing really that big, but we got to see a lot of wildlife, which was really cool. And we got to just watch God's creation unfolding in front of us. It starts to get a little bit shadowy, sun's setting over the horizon, and we're thinking, well, this might happen or this might not happen. Now, okay, here I have to preface this. When you're in an enclosed blind and you're trying to film, it makes it really hard to depict what you actually see. So some of the footage you're gonna see here is a little bit dark because we're in an enclosed blind. We don't want to open the windows to have deer see us. And I said, I think that doe's been looking back. I know she's been looking back, but I think there's more deer coming. Guess what? Just like that. I always say it happens just like that. I look, buck. I really kind of wanted one that was still velvet. And here comes a beautiful 8-pointer still in velvet. And he's kind of got that little trot going. And I said, well, I'm ready. I'm locked and loaded with my 10-point. I bleat, he stops, he looks. Pin is right there behind his shoulder. He basically takes a couple bounds and disappears to where he came from. No problem, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna wait. And in this case, when I'm hunting with somebody else, especially an outfitter, I'm not gonna sit there and try to know more than they do, because I don't. If you're hunting on somebody else's turf, you have to trust their call. And in Eric's case, he said, if you shoot something, just wait for me. So we're gonna wait. We're gonna sit here and we're gonna wait about an hour. I think he's dead, okay, but we didn't look. So now it's dark. We go and look for blood, and I tell you what, it wasn't a picture-perfect ending. We did not find blood right away, and I'm kind of stumped. You know, I send a sever right through that deer, and I'm not sure where he went. I know he went in the corner of this woods, but we get over to the corner of the woods and we look down and it is a straight drop off to this creek. I mean, it's like 20 feet down. And I'm like, well, he didn't fall down there because he'd be dead. I mean, it was just straight off a rock cliff. Okay, we're gonna stop and compose ourselves. Eric gets up with us and he said, well, there's one little trail that kind of just basically comes along the side of this cliff. We're gonna check that. Good call. We went down that trail just a little bit, 20 yards, boom, blood.
Blood.
Once we're on the trail, okay, now we've got something to work with. Yep, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Eric flashes his light, laying down in the creek, my bunk.
Oh, yes!
Good job. Good job, Eric. Yes. Well, that is a fitting end to a great day of hunting here in Wyoming. My favorite place on earth to bow hunt whitetails, Ralph Dampman's. It's Trophy Ridge Outfitters. It's near Carlisle, Wyoming. You see so many deer, and you get to watch them, and you get to see so many bucks, and you get to see bucks in velvet. This is my first velvet buck. I am so happy. Always a reason to celebrate when you got a deer on the ground, but when we got him out of that creek and I realized he still had velvet on those antlers, it was even more reason to celebrate. The key takeaway on this hunt, a beautiful afternoon. Sever did its job again, a very short blood trail, and most of all, sharing that with friends, and what I'm gonna say family, because when you can do that on an early season bow hunt, make the shot, short blood trail, that's what deer hunting is all about.
Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Sever Broadheads, straight through it. 10-point crossbow technologies, there is no substitute. And by Outdoor Edges, game processing sets to do it yourself and save. This segment of Deer and Deer Hunting TV is brought to you by Hunt Stand.
One of the things I find hardest about hunting out of a blind or tree stand is when a deer shows up and he doesn't do what I expect him to do. And most times that means that deer is moving and I either need to stop him or wait for him to pause momentarily until I can take the shot. The perfect example is during the rut. A buck is coming through, he might be scent checking for does. He's not lingering around eating in a food plot, he's just making his way through. What I practice there is getting my bow or my crossbow ready in position and just following that deer. Now I'm not going to shoot at a moving deer with my bow or my crossbow, but I need to be prepared that I can't just throw that thing up and take the shot. So I'm going to follow him, in this case with my 10-point, I'm going to follow him through the scope, kind of watching up and over, up and over, up and over. He's moving, he's moving, he's moving, and he stops right there. Now I can take the shot. The thing I need to prepare in a blind is, do I have clearance on these windows? If I'm here and that's where I'm expecting him to show up, no problem. But what happens if I move to here? Well, that side of that window could be a problem. And if I make sure I've got plenty of clearance, that my limbs don't hit it, but plenty of clearance so I know that that arrow is going to make it to the deer. The second thing I have to keep in mind is, how is this going to change my point of impact with my bow or my crossbow? A bow is much more difficult. Bow, when I have it at full draw, that's changing my anchor point with every little increment that I move. When I'm here, I'm straight on, but I'm moving here, I'm kind of leaning. So I have to practice those shots. With the crossbow, you don't have as much problem with parallax. You have a little bit depending upon how much you're bending or crooning to get through those windows. But with the crossbow, it's just about being steady before you take the shot. The third point relates to both my bow and my crossbow, in the fact that I'm not going to take a very far shot if I'm tracking a deer. For me, it's 20 yards and less. Money shots, as I call them. With my bow, I can anchor. It's first pin. I don't have to think about it. With my crossbow, I don't have my shooting stick when I'm doing this, so I'm not taking a 30-yard shot. Too much can go wrong in that distance. Practice tracking a deer on those close shots, and you'll be better prepared when the real thing happens.
You spent the money on your trail camera. They're a lot of money, but now you want to get the most out of it, right? Well, keep that camera out there 365 days a year, not only for monitoring the big bucks that may be coming by, but just fun surveillance. And if you want to get more images, Wildlife Research Center has come up with this new product called Activecam. It's a curiosity scent. You just dip a wick in there, and then you hang that wick out in front of your camera. Everything that comes by is going to smell that and stop for a picture-perfect moment. Elk, deer, bear, coyotes, fox, anything you can think of with 4 legs, and maybe 2 is going to stop by there. Can't say it works for turkeys, but anything else in your property is going to help you stack up more images, and maybe even one you're going to frame and put on your wall.
Deer and Deer Hunting is brought to you by Sever Broadheads, straight through it. 10-point crossbow technologies, there is no substitute. And by Outdoor Edge, make the cut.